Welcome. I'm Evelyn Rudy.
And I'm your guest co-host, Blake Bradford.
And this is Santa Monica on Stage, where we talk about the people and venues that make the city of Santa Monica the cultural destination for the performing arts.
Now, today, we're starting with our old pals at Public Works Improv, and they are going to tell us about what they have in store for this coming season.
Cool. Then we'll talk about Jamaica Farewell, an incredible immigrant story that tours all over the U.S.
I can't wait to see what she has to say. She looks like she's going to be engaging, to say the least. All right, let's get started.
Public Works Improvisational Theater specializes in cultural activism that puts audiences in touch with the here and now world around them. Today, we are joined by our old pals Lee Beck and Eric Fulmer. Hello, Lee. Hello, Eric. How are you both?
Hi, Evelyn.
Thank you. So glad to both have you both back.
Thank you.
Lee, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
You're such a fascinating person, and we've met you here before and talked about your past and that you were a preacher. And you have that aura about you for me. I always feel inspired whenever I hear you talk about your projects. But you have so many projects going on now that I think we probably would like to find out about some of the exciting things you're doing. What is Storyfile? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, Storyfile is a storytelling, poetry, and music event that we do monthly at ArtShare in the Arts District in downtown Los Angeles. And it's the first Thursday of every month. And we invite musicians, really good poets and storytellers to come. And we have a very eclectic evening. We don't have a theme usually. And so it makes a very nice evening. And it's a lot of fun.
So let's talk about improv. It's in the title of the company. So tell me about the different types of improv. What does it mean to you guys? Is some of it planned, some not planned? Are you sketch comedy? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I wouldn't describe us as sketch comedy anymore. In fact, we don't really do as much improv right now as we have in the past. This company was based in improvisation. We play theater games to create theater. And of course, we use that a lot in our rehearsals, and we have done purely improv shows for many years, and we're not doing as much of that right now, but we can easily return to that at some point, to doing more of it. Yeah.
Eric.
Yes.
You were raised or started out reading Greek mythology, as did I, and I think you said your favorite author is Steinbeck. My first real author that I read was Jack London. So, you know, not your usual kids stories, but you are a literature person. Voices from the well?
Well, voice in the well.
In the well. So the voice is in the well
of your being.
And then it comes out. And what are you doing with those projects at the moment?
Well, right now we're focusing on great authors, and so we'll be celebrating James Joyce and Ireland next month, or next, and then we move on. Arthur Miller will have his 100th birthday.
Oh, wow.
He's gone now, but in October we're doing a salute to Arthur Miller, the playwright who most well known for Death of a Salesman.
So how about...
And we just finished a tour of several shows about Steinbeck and the writings of Steinbeck, which Eric very beautifully crafted into a nice piece that we presented many times, and we hope to be doing again.
Oh, great.
Are those readings, or is there music, or how do those work?
Well, we did scene readings, and I chose pieces from Grapes of Wrath, of course, and Cannery Row, and Of Mice and Men. And in a way, we drew from Paul Sills, his story theater, which does go back to Chicago, Second City, and the improvisations that he learned from his mother, Viola Spolin.
Who wrote the book.
Right. So what is it about literature, you, Eric, that got you into this and made you want to turn this into like a theatrical event?
Well, of course, books take you on adventures, and it's just wonderful to travel with the authors, and of course, some of my favorite authors are travel writers, like Bruce Chatwin, who wrote In Patagonia, and wrote a wonderful book called Songlines about the Aborigines who sang up the land of Australia. And so I want to share that. I worry that we're moving away from literature, and a lot of people aren't that familiar with the great works, and so
Right.
I try to put those in actors' hands and even infiltrate into auditions, because my actors will use our readings from our literature as audition pieces.
So books let you travel, and I think that's wonderful. They take you on adventures and let you travel. And Eric, you are working on something very important now that is, I would say, the opposite of being able to go on an adventure or being able to travel anywhere, even further than 8 feet, being surrounded by 4 walls.
Yeah, solitary confinement.
Yes, can you tell
We're
us
doing
about
a
that?
series of readings on the 23rd of every month about solitary confinement, because we heard the plea of the guys in solitary confinement at Pelican Bay. So we're doing a show called If the Shoe Fits. And we're working in coalition with LA Labor Fest and Drama Stage Qumran. And we're doing a show, a reading of these letters, and we're beginning to craft a play out of it, or some kind of theatrical piece out of it, and in the process getting other stories from other people who have been in solitary confinement. We're doing it on the 23rd of every month.
And why is that important?
Because
Yeah.
you're in solitary confinement 23 hours a day in a very small space the size of this little stage here. And then you get a yard to stand in for another hour, and then you're back in there for 23 more hours, and this is torture. And it drives people insane, and it's very, very hard on people and their families. And so the fellows at Pelican Bay in solitary confinement, a whole group of them, went on a hunger strike in 2012 until they got the attention of the legislature of the state of California, which agreed, after force feeding them for a while, agreed to hold hearings if they would stop. And they stopped, but they were never consulted in the hearings, so they felt like it hadn't been completed, and of course no changes had really been made. The only change that has come about is that now there's more awareness, and we're trying to help that awareness by doing these monthly readings. And this is in coalition with people all around the country. I mean, we're not the only ones doing it, and there's statewide coordinated actions. And we try to share the stories, discuss strategies, and get people to take action in regards to this particular issue in the shows that we're doing about that.
Now, what are some of the stories? You said you've been getting letters from these people that have been in for 23 hours a day. What are some of the things that you can share with us that you've been hearing so far?
Well, one of the pieces that I do, the fellow talks about, riding a bus, going to the prison, realizing that this is going to, be the last time he sees an ocean or a mountain or a landscape. This is even before he gets in solitary confinement, but, and then realizing that he's not the only one on the bus feeling this, and that their lives are about to change drastically. Now, of course, a lot of them have committed crimes,
right.
but a lot of them have committed crimes that probably don't deserve solitary confinement, but once they get in prison, they get caught up in other crimes, and sometimes get just caught up like in a battle or in a struggle or in a fight. Somebody attacks them or something, and they fight back, and then they end up getting in trouble, and so then they end up spending a lot of time in solitary confinement. And right now we're focusing a lot on youth in solitary confinement, because solitary confinement is being used in our juvenile prison system, as well as our older people's prisons, and also in our detention centers for immigrants. People are getting in trouble and they're being put in solitary confinement there, and so it's torture.
That's
At least
really
more than a week, we're saying, in a situation like that is just more than a person can bear.
A week at sometimes, or more.
More.
Oh no, this goes on for, I mean, there's guys been in there for 30 years.
Wow.
This is amazing that you are able to take theater and use theater to bring people's awareness to this. And
That's part of what we do. is
Yes,
try
that's exactly,
raise
and
issues
literature
and-
as well. Where do you see Public Works going in a year or 5 years? I know you're doing more and more, and what's the ultimate goal?
Well, I don't know if there's an ultimate goal, but my ultimate goal is to keep doing it and to, try to stay involved and stay relevant and to create interest and action and to share the wonderful people that Eric and I know, then the literature and the actors and the musicians that we know and love, and we like to. Like we were talking about a project about Under the Hollywood Sign, because there's so many wonderful actors. The reason we have great stars in Hollywood is because we have so many people underneath them helping
Right.
them get there. you
Right.
know?
And we want to
And,
congratulate you on that and congratulate you. And we know that you are making people make a difference, and that's what counts. Thank you
Does.
again. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having
Sure,
us.
thank you.
Stick around. When we come back, Lee's going to give us a little taste of Public Works improv.
Discover 30 years of opera in Santa Monica. Discover the Verdi Chorus.
Let's do ourselves in. I'm talking mass suicide. Let's just kill ourselves by shooting lots of rockets at each other. Allow the nukes to leak. Let's frack and drill till there's no more thrill. Let's just throw it all away and do ourselves in. Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid. We could use Kool-Aid. That might help. The preacher said, I know heaven's my home. I just ain't homesick. The doctor said, Lee, you dodged the bullet. I said, well, hey, you gotta have heart, miles and miles of heart. Boom, 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 boom. That little ticker, boom, 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 has been ticking, boom, 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 for 73 years. Boom, 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 without missing a lick. Boom, 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 bumpity boom, blippity blip, flippity blip, flippity blip. I don't know what to think. Could this be the end of the plink, 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 the blip, 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 blop, the flip, 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 flop? Still ticking? Yeah, well, someday it won't go, and I will. 'Cause once we were the younger guys, full of vim and vigor. Everything about our lives got bigger and bigger. Even parts don't work well now, worked quite well then. Lots of muscle, lots of tone. Where has all that gone? Old guy, best not to think of yourself as an old guy. Best just to be an old guy. When she was 96 years old, my grandmother said to me, Lee, when you're looking at me, you see a little old lady. But when I'm looking at you, I'm still looking with the same young eyes I've always had. Grandma, says I'm going to remember you said that. Thank you.
Deborah Earhart spins a fascinating and true immigrant story in her solo show, Jamaica Farewell. A dashing man, oxtail soup, and a large sum of cash are all involved. Here to tell us more is the writer and performer herself. Deborah, welcome.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you. So tell me, how did Jamaica Farewell come about?
Well, I started telling stories as a little girl, 7 years old, in a mango tree in Jamaica. My dad was an alcoholic and a gambler, so there was no money left over for any kind of entertainment. So to keep my friends and my sisters and myself occupied, I started telling stories and acting them out and putting different voices to it, and I got so good that I started charging 5 cents in that mango tree.
Oh, wow. So you knew how to charge admission even at the age of 7.
Yep, when you come from a third world country and there's no money around, you got to be very inventive.
And so how did the actual play, Jamaica Farewell, was it something that you thought you might be doing as a young person? I want to create a play about my life, or did that happen after all of these exciting events? How did it come about?
Well, I always dreamed about coming to America and performing and telling stories, and after I graduated theater school in New York, I was shocked to find out that I wouldn't get a job. My agent, manager, everybody said, well, you're not going to get a job with your Jamaican accent. So and you know what, the truth is, how many roles are there written in America for Jamaican actresses? Not too many. So I did go to a speech therapist for about 9 months to try to learn to sound more American, and then I went on an audition, and I got 4 callbacks, and I thought I had the job. And on the last callback, the American director said, "That's fantastic. Now just do that with your American accent." And I'm thinking, that was the American accent.
Oh, that's great.
So I realized that I just couldn't get rid of the rhythm in my voice, no matter how hard I tried. And if I wanted to work in America and tell stories, I would have to create my own work. Oh, wow. So that's what I started doing, writing and creating my own work. And Jamaica Farewell, is a piece that I had always wanted to write, but I was always afraid that maybe the FBI or the CIA would come and remove me from the stage.
Oh, that's great.
So I thought, let me wait, as long as I can. And so over 20 years have gone by. So I think I'm safe now.
Oh, great. So let's set the scene together. Tell me, in the 1970s Jamaica,
yes.
Where do we go from there? Tell me what's going on in the culture,
Well,
and what you wanted to do.
In the late 70s in Jamaica, there was a political revolution going on. Our Prime Minister, Manley, who I was in love with from a little girl, he had a lot of noble aspirations, but I think he took everything a little bit too far when he aligned himself with Fidel Castro, and everybody started to get scared if Jamaica was going to become communist. And America was not too happy with that, because they did not want to have 2 communist countries in their backyard.
Right.
So they sent in a whole bunch of CIA agents, and they also gave thousands of guns to the opposition, and so political chaos was just, took over Jamaica. Everything was running, people were being, shot in the streets daily. People were dodging bullets, and all the wealthier people in Jamaica were trying to get out of Jamaica, with their money, because we were all afraid that it was going to become communist. And my family were, they were not wealthy, so we were not going to get a visa anytime soon. So I went to lunch one day and at this local place, and I noticed this guy, who was well dressed in a suit, and then I heard him speak, and I thought, that's an American accent. Thank goodness I was looking pretty good that day. Okay? And he saw me look at him. We exchanged, smiles. And, I could tell that he took a little fancy to me.
As any man would, yes. As any man in his right mind, yes.
And so we became friends. And I was showing him around the island, And then I was only 18 years old, and I came up with the most ridiculous plan, of how I was going to get from Jamaica to the United States and get this guy to unwittingly help me, And when I think about what I did at 18 years old, I can't even believe it, because only a silly 18-year-old girl would pack, with $1 million US in her bag and think that she's gonna, drive to an airport and get to America, with $1 million in this bag.
$1 million in a bag. Now, how much space does that require?
Listen, $1 million US cash fits perfectly into a bag the size of a shoebox in $100 bills. It's the only time I ever saw $1 million cash. And it's funny because I could never do anything like that now. That's how I know I'm getting old, because I could never do anything like that again.
100,000, that's fine.
Yeah.
$1 million, we have to work on.
I don't even want to carry cash in my bag now. You have a debit card.
Right.
Even for $5, you use
Right.
a debit card. So I look back and think, the stupidity of youth, or you think you're immortal, you're never going to die. Now I can barely go through the yellow light because I know I can die. And I'm not ready to leave yet.
But it got you here.
It got me here,
And you play 20 different characters in the
Yes,
play. What can you
I-
show us some or tell us some?
Well, I do play over 20 different characters. In a solo show, I think the main goal for me is not to bore my audience, And so to tell the story, I really try to become really alive and to change all my characters with my voices and with the expressions that I use, So everybody that has seen Jamaica Farewell, they say to me, because I come out and meet my audience after, they go, I feel like I've just seen a play with 20 different people. And they say, I feel like I've just been to Jamaica, even though there's only a couple of boxes on the set.
Right.
and a
Oh, well, let's
chair.
talk about that. So you use a very bare set, but you have a reason for it, so you can bring the audience in. What is it that you find that helps with the
Well,
production?
if you have one set on the stage, that's pretty much all you can use.
Yeah.
But because I just have a bare stage with words, I can create as many stages as I want. I can take the audience with lighting and the words and telling of the story. I can change the sets every 5 minutes, every minute, every 20 minutes. And so I have about 20 different sets on my stage.
And you've done over 500 performances of this play, and you still keep it fresh. I've seen it when we first saw you and lately, and it seems just as fresh as ever. How do you do that?
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm not one of those gals who can cook and clean and iron. I can't do any of that stuff, but I can tell a good story. I can tell a good story, and this is my passion, and I love doing it, and I feel so grateful that people actually get dressed and come to the theater, to watch my story. So I feel like I'm gonna make sure that it's worth it for them to come, and that they say, I'm glad I spent that money and came over here to the theater.
Right.
And I keep it fresh because I love doing it so much. And when I have a new audience every time, when I hear the gaps and the laughs and
Yes.
the shrieks, and I can see some of their faces, and it makes it new for me because it's new for them.
Right.
So,
do you get nervous? All those performances, do you still get nervous?
I
beforehand?
got to tell you, over 500 performances and almost 10 years of doing this play, I still get nervous every time I do it,
Wow.
and my heart starts to pump before, and I'm like, I hope I don't, forget any of the words. I have nightmares of going blank on the stage, but my director told me that once you start not getting nervous, you've got to worry, because you've got to use that nervousness to really make the story exciting. So, that's what I try to do.
You have the best laugh I have ever heard in my life. It is so contagious. I just have to say that. It has nothing to
Wow.
do with anything, but I could listen to you laugh forever.
So
Oh, well.
I could too, but I'm going to ask you one last question. We're almost out of time. So what does the American dream mean to you?
You know, I mean, I like I said, I am so grateful to be here because, you know, I grew up in a country where most of the people want to come to the United States. From little girl, I heard about this wonderful, amazing country. You know, anything you can dream of, you can find it in America. And we heard that if you worked hard, you can just about get anything that you want, you know. In my country, it feels like you're running in place a little bit, but I am just so grateful to be here. I feel like I am living the American dream. From a mango tree to Santa Monica on stage with you.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
So stick around. We'll be back with more Santa Monica on stage.
I thought I had everything under control. Then, one day, something happened. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know there was help. Until someone told me.
Providing access to justice, the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles can help with domestic violence issues, eviction defense, government benefits, immigration, and other civil legal issues.
What exciting performers
Yeah.
and cool stuff we've been hearing about
I know,
today.
that was great, yeah. So Lee's performance, wasn't that very cool? I mean,
It was breathtaking. It was like three different pieces in one.
Right.
And it kept, you thought maybe it was going to be finished, and then boom, it went off into another direction, and boom, it went off into another direction, and you could really relate to all of it.
Right, and it dovetail very much into the social activism that they were talking about. I mean, how about the solitary confinement that they're working on?
I can't even begin to imagine what that would be
23
like.
hours a day sometimes.
And youth, young people.
Right, and I was wondering, what would you do? I mean, how would you stay sane for that long? And he said to us that one guy told him, you have to go insane to stay sane during that sort of situation. So that's just amazing what they're doing, that they started in the 1970s, and they are still going strong on social activism.
And stronger and stronger,
and
doing more.
He's ready for a change. He's ready to make change, and that's so impressive.
Amazing.
And then Deborah, who you know.
Deborah.
Yeah.
And she is in her own right. She's an activist,
Yeah.
not in the same way, but the story that she shares with people, her journey, and the journey of having a dream and pursuing it and making it come true.
Right.
That's for me, every person that comes out of her show says to themselves, I had this, I wanted to do this, I can. I
Right.
still can. It's
Right.
so inspiring.
And she talks about how it's not just her stories about Jamaica, but then she hears from people after the show that it can be from Ecuador, it could be from Brazil, it could be from England. All these people have that same sort of cultural shock when they come to the United States, and the issue it is to get here. Isn't that amazing?
To get here. It's so, we are attractive.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can live up to that when we do get those people here and not disappoint them when they arrive.
Yeah, well, Evelyn, it's been so nice getting to spend 30 minutes with you today talking about the arts. I love it.
I love having you here. You're a wonderful, wonderful co-host.
You're the best.
And that's our show for today. Every week, we're continuing our journey, learning more about the arts groups that make Santa Monica's cultural world so rich.
Now, we look forward to seeing you next time as we introduce you to a few more of our friends here on Santa Monica On Stage.